15, City of Missouri City Planning and Zoning Commission is hereby called to order. We do have a quorum of commissioners here on tonight, with the exception of Ms. Rose, Mr. Gaspar, and Mr. Goff will not be in attendance on tonight. He's ill. Is there a motion for the acceptance of the January 14th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any corrections, additions? All in favor? Opposed? You'll abstain.
Abstain.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Commission reports. I have no report on tonight. Any of the commissioners? Mr. O'Malley?
You know, I kind of have a report in progress. We have our big meeting tomorrow to discuss capital improvement budgets. We get presentation from all the department heads. So next meeting, I'll have a report.
All right, good. Thank you so much for doing that for us, sir. Staff reports. Director of Development Services.
No report.
Thank you. Planning Representative. Thank you. City Engineer.
I don't believe we have any reports at this time.
Okay, public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to address the Planning and Zoning Commission on items or concerns that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone? Okay, thank you. 6, plats. This is the consent agenda. Consider approval of a conceptual plan for Sienna Plantation 1B, sections 6B through 13B. 2, consider approval of a preliminary plat for Murphy Road Self-Storage. 3, consider approval of a final plat for Cravens Road Subdivision. 4, consider approval of a final plat for Gateway Southwest Industrial Park. 5, consider approval of a final plat for Oyster Creek Crossing, Section 4. And 6, consider approval of a final plat for Olympia Estates, Section 8. Is there a motion that we accept and adopt the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
I understand that the applicant on item 5 has requested staff to withdraw it from the consent agenda, but staff doesn't feel like it has the power, once it's been posted as a consent agenda, to withdraw it. But we certainly have the power to inform you that request was made. There are concerns over conditions that we have required, and I believe that's the point that the applicant wishes to discuss with the commission.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve consent agenda items 1 through 4 and number 6, and that we disapprove item 5.
Thank you, Ms.
Approve or
Williams.
remove it from the agenda.
Just remove it from
Just
the
remove
consent
it.
agenda.
Okay, remove it from the agenda, amended.
Gotcha.
And I did have one question. Typically, didn't we always have conceptual plans done separately?
Yes, when they're accompanied by preliminary.
Oh, okay, only if they're, all right.
Thank you. Okay with that? All
I'm
right.
okay with that.
We have a motion and we do have a second on the floor. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries, with item 5 being withdrawn. Item 7, I'm sorry.
Item 5 is to be considered now, separate from the consent agenda. Individually.
So we could talk about it.
Individually.
We need to talk about it. Pardon me. We'll return back to item 5, approval of a final plat for Oyster Creek. Jennifer, you want to lead us through this?
Well, I think the applicant wants to speak with the commission. The issue is the acreage that should be conveyed to the MUD for the lift station.
Okay.
And
We don't have any power over that.
So A1.
so down here on the right, in the right-hand corner here, are reserves that were dedicated by previous plats Vicksburg Point, Section 1, and a previous Oyster Creek Crossing plat that were dedicated to a lift station use. On the Oyster Creek Crossing site, there wasn't enough land dedicated for that purpose. And so the condition on this plat is that since they are platting the adjoining acreage, that they need to include the additional acreage for the lift station reserve. And on this plat, what we're asking is that they include it as a reserve, since it's now going to be surrounded by other parcels that have been previously platted, but included as a reserve and dedicated for the lift station use. The applicant is concerned because the current owner of the larger tract is no longer the owner of the lift station property. And so the applicant has some concerns with whether or not the MUD needs to join the plat application or how to convey that property to the MUD. The city's interest is that it be dedicated for the purpose of the lift station use, so that there's no question as to what the land is being conveyed for.
So what's the confusion?
Sir, come on up, please.
Pretty normal.
It is.
Would you state your name?
I'm Randy McClendon with Tejas Surveying. I appreciate your consideration. I'll try to be brief. When this is the fourth or fifth plat in this area, the property on the west side of the line was developed by one developer and on the east side by another. And the developer on the west got in there first, and they were pleased to dedicate the required dimensions of the space, and the plat was approved. When the second developer was going through, for whatever reason, it was determined that they needed a deeper lift station. So the following developer dedicated a deeper lift station. Lift station was constructed, and to my knowledge, I don't know that anyone ever said we want more land, but 2.5 years later, when Public Storage is coming in, on the preliminary plat, they made the comment that they wanted us to extend the lift station. Well, my initial reaction as the person preparing the plat was, well, this is going to be problematic because you have a reserve, another reserve. Now you're going to have a piece of property which we're going to try to plat that doesn't have frontage on a public road, which and Jennifer tells me that's acceptable here, but by most standards, there's a minimum size and a requirement that all reserves have frontage on a public road. So if we plat it, then we have to bring in the MUD district, who already owns the front, and bring them in. And so we said, why don't, we'll get the developer to sell them everything but that, and they'll sell them this little strip to the MUD district. So we started that process, but the MUD district was slow to respond. On December 12th, I went to the MUD district meeting, requested they put it on the agenda. Rich Mueller had it on the agenda, and they made a motion, seconded, and passed the motion to accept this strip from the developer. Now, the developer has put it in his declaration in his Fourth Amendment, which we provide to the city, stating that they would dedicate that to the MUD district as soon as the MUD district will accept it. Now, the MUD district has never said they wanted it. City staff has conveyed to us that we needed to create this additional area, and it's been problematic to do. Putting it on the plat doesn't convey it to the MUD district either. But she has a good point. You can restrict it. Probably could restrict it some other ways too. At this point, because they have all their construction plans ready to go, bringing in a third party into their plat, an outside party, is problematic. I would suggest that we plat that little strip by itself, or do a replat of the entire lift station site and include it and clean it up. Come back in with that. If the parties are willing, as they must be in our case, then they'll sign and be willing. I just trying to avoid getting the dirty end of the business on what's otherwise a clean deal. If you've ever had two owners or a political entity as your owner applicant, things move slow. And that's all I've got to say. I'd like you to approve the plat without that being a requirement. It can be dedicated to them by separate instrument. If it hadn't already, then that would be the motion that I'd like to hear you make. But either way, we appreciate your consideration. Take whatever you have. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so the biggest problem is the timing, if I'm understanding it, with trying to get the MUD to sign off and versus,
I assume perhaps OCC too still owns the property. The wheels were in motion from the last correspondence and agreement we had with the city that they would convey it to the MUD. If they've already executed and conveyed to the MUD, then we would need to get the MUD to join us on the plat. And
it's
that would
taking,
probably take board meeting
Longer.
Yeah, and
notice.
I don't want to, use this forum to go back and forth, but I do want to inform the commission, the previous property owner was aware of this condition. This is not a new issue. The previous property owner has been aware of it for at least a year or more. This was also conveyed in terms of whether or not they would replat the existing plats or combine it with this plat at the initial pre-application meeting that was had on this project. So we've gone down this road, and our concern is just to ensure that the lift station track has substantial space as required by the design manual. Part of the issue with the size of the lift station track was the dedication of right-of-way along Trammell Fresno that eats into the existing reserve. So this has been conveyed to the property owners. We're sympathetic, on timing. The current owner of the larger track is under plan review right now for construction, and this is one of the remaining items that they're waiting for conclusion on. However, our interest is ensuring that the public aspect of this property is put into place before this plat is finalized.
discussion.
All right, so right now, right now with the two reserves shown, taking out the right-of-way for Trammell, you guys still have a large enough site for,
My understanding, I don't know if Valerie can speak to it, but it's the dimensions that are required for a lift station track.
Yeah, like you said, it was identified previously, and this was brought up back during the pre-development phase. It was at the time that Vicksburg Point, I have the name correct, to the east. It was at that point when they platted, we ensured that they incorporated that extra space that was needed. And yeah, I can't speak directly for the MUD and exactly why they need that space, but we knew that when the track to the west came, that at that time they would need to do the same.
but the lift station will be the district's.
It eventually, and the idea is it would be dedicated to the MUD, and eventually, if and when the city acquires it, then it would become, part of the city's operation. So the previous ones dedicated it for a lift station, for the purpose of a lift station, and that's what we're requesting for this plat as well. They would have to convey it by deed or by fee to the MUD or to whatever public entity would accept it.
Yeah, because we don't really want that here.
Dedicating it to the MUD?
Well, yeah, we don't need the mud involved here.
No, but they need to plat, create the boundaries for
Right.
it, and identify what the use is for it.
Which,
Which, for this case, it should be for, to increase the lift station site.
that's what is drawn here, right?
They're not, on the version that you see here, they have a call-out,
Right?
and,
Sorry, I can't see that small.
yeah, they have a call-out, it's the call-out there that says .262 square foot track, Fort Bend County MUD 48, and then they have a line to put an instrument number, and that's
I see
what
it now.
Randy was referencing. We don't have an instrument number. Randy has mentioned that the MUD heard it on their December agenda, but we don't have, even, MUD records, we need something recorded or an actual instrument that creates or conveys that property.
So then, December, here we are, February. They should have already done it.
Yeah, and one thing that the commission should consider as well is that, again, the previous property owner was aware of this issue. The current owner of the larger tract acquired the property within the last several months, but our subdivision ordinance is clear that the subdivision of the property should occur before the property is transferred by deed for sale or lease. And so all of that should have been in place prior to the sale of the land.
I mean, my opinion is we don't need to get into the MUD's business. We need to make sure the plat's clean so it's there, right? That's really where we're at.
That's what we're trying to protect.
I agree.
Jennifer, if I may. I wrote the MUD engineer several emails, called him several times. We tried to get this going. Finally, I sent a letter around to the attorney requesting that the item be placed on the agenda. I showed up at the agenda. It wasn't even on the item, but they put it on the agenda and took action. That's why I was hesitant to involve an outside party in our plat, because they just don't move fast. Rich Mueller is the attorney, and if they wanted this, and they've never said they even wanted it, all he has to do is prepare a deed. Everyone else is willing. So we're at the mercy of how fast will this MUD take some action that the city has indicated the MUD needs to take. That's why we platted around it, and we're trying to convey it to them. We don't want to put it into our plat because, well.
Okay, thank you, sir. What's your question, Ms. Rose?
Well, it sounds like they're trying to give the land to the MUD, essentially. But the MUD has not accepted it, or can you all deed it to them and initiate the process?
He can't.
I can turn in a recorded plat with a quitclaim deed to the city of this property. The city can give it to the MUD whenever this MUD comes around.
But the city doesn't want it.
Accepting it.
We don't want
If
it.
that were the motion,
Yeah.
it'd be easy. It would be very easy.
Okay, let's do this. Let's kind of keep our discussion kind of up here. But, are there any other questions from the commissioners of Jennifer?
It's
Okay,
not up to us then, right?
it's not. Is there a motion?
Well, but what would the motion be? I mean, this plat cannot be recorded unless that
Well, and that's right.
deficiency is cleared.
That's right. And they said
And
the
it's
final plat conditioned on completion of the items above.
And it's in the MUD's ballpark right now.
Well,
I don't know if we cannot take any action, but
Yeah, it is a final plat,
it's
Yeah.
final. but
and
it's
so
gonna
it is
be-
on the time
But-
clock that
but
the
the
commission.
plat dies.
If we don't take action,
It's approved as
automatically
is.
approved.
Yeah, but if the plat dies without these items addressed, then it goes back to, they gotta resolve it.
Well, the
Right.
commission votes
If we
to
pass it
disapprove
forward.
it. If you pass it, they would have to,
If we pass it with the conditions which you guys have
Correct.
recommended, and they can't meet it in that time frame,
well, if you pass it with conditions, they have 2 years. 2 years from the date of approval to finalize and record the plat.
you know,
It may not be the same time frame that they're on, but they do have 2 years from approval. If you take no action,
Yeah,
then it's approved as is.
if that condition isn't met, then they're not gonna get their permits.
Their time frame is their permit, yes.
Right. So
And if
even
we
if the
take no
plat.
action,
If you take no action, it'll
it's
be
approved
approved as is.
without that condition.
So we need to take action with the conditions.
Yes. So my thing is.
Is that a
we
viable?
Follow your recommendation, right? I don't consider that no action personally, but whatever, that's a semantics.
Conditional approval,
Yes,
and that, yes.
we can't just table it, it's gotta move
So
forward.
vote on approving it as written?
Yeah, and then if neither the MUD nor he can resolve it, then it has to go back through the process, right?
Well, it sounds like it's resolved. It's not resolved in a timely manner.
That's really what it is. So basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna assist in someone lighting a fire by pushing it forward, right, to some extent?
Well, I just trust city staff. I say we
Yeah,
look at the motion to approve as written by city staff.
Is that your motion, sir?
Yes, it is.
yeah.
Is there a
I
second?
second it.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Very good. Motion carries.
At least you have a way forward, I guess.
Tables. Should have tabled it.
Good luck with the MUD.
Let's get it in a minute. I'm sorry. 7A, zoning map amendments. This is a public hearing for a zoning map amendment to receive comments for or against a request by Jonathan Woodruff, D.R. Horton, to amend ordinance 0-13-05 pertaining to PD District Number 88 to allow for the location of a single-family residential development and to the extent such rezoning deviates from the future land use and character map of the comprehensive plan.
All righty. This is a request by D.R. Horton to amend the regulations for a portion of PD 88, which was approved, came through this commission a few years ago, for a mixed-use development that included a business park, commercial uses, and also a multifamily component. This is around the Fort Bend Parkway, goes all the way down to Trammell Fresno on the other side, different from the Trammell Fresno we were just speaking about. It's bordered by Trammell Fresno on the south and Lake Olympia Parkway on the north, and then is intersected by the Fort Bend Parkway. So the portion that D.R. Horton is looking at is this portion that's in yellow, that's the hash marks are on here. And right now, it's the permissible uses are commercial, non-residential uses. And D.R. Horton is seeking to change the uses allowed in there to allow for single-family residential. They're looking to follow the R2 standards, which are typical for the other Olympia Estates sections. Minimum lot sizes would be 50-foot lots, consistent with the R2 sections. Staff recommendation is to disapprove this change. And what's outlined in the staff report and what the commission is aware of is the critical nature of where we're at in terms of being close to being built out as a community. And looking at those areas, those large pieces of land that we still have remaining, that may provide an opportunity for us to be able to balance and supplement the tax base. As you know, Missouri City grew up as a bedroom community, and so we have a great majority of our land use devoted to single-family residential. So we do not believe that it's in the best interest of the city looking long-term for sustainability to rezone this portion to allow for single-family. There are cases to be made in terms of buffering and whether or not this use would be sufficient to provide a buffer from new single-family residential that's being constructed today and some existing single-family residential. But staff feels like, again, this is an opportunity at the intersection of the Fort Bend Parkway and Lake Olympia, and one of the best opportunities that the city has to attract a substantial non-residential base. One thing I want to point out to the commission, if you remember late last year in the fall, 2 PDs were approved on the north side of Lake Olympia, one for 320 some odd acres that would allow for single family that could allocate up to 900 or so single family homes. You still have areas in the Olympia Estates subdivision to the west of Vicksburg Boulevard, and where Vicksburg Boulevard is being extended, that has a R2 single-family residential zoning designation that is undeveloped at this time. So all of that being considered, this is a recommendation to look at the long-term sustainability for the city. There's a market today for single-family residential, and to build, builders are looking at a real market need for additional single-family homes. But our staff recommendation is based on looking at the long-range sustainability for the city. The applicant is here if the commission would like to hear from him and any questions that the commission may have.
Thank you, Jennifer.
So they're just carving out part of District 1 then for that?
Correct.
Right?
That is
As
correct.
I understand it, okay.
Hello, sir. You may step to the podium.
My name is Bob McCollum, and I'm here on behalf of D.R. Horton. Basically, both the southeast corner of the intersection of a proposed thoroughfare and the southwest corner of a thoroughfare intersecting Lake Olympia Parkway are currently in zone for commercial. There is no commercial around there, and the owner didn't feel that it was likely in any near future that he would have any commercial sales, and so entered into negotiations for another section of Olympia Estates. D.R. Horton, a major national home builder, just anticipates 42 lots, and this would just be Olympia Estates Section 10. The advantage they propose is that it would create a better buffer between residential and commercial. For whatever reason, most residential don't like to be the ones next to commercial, for better or for worse. This would provide that the entire southwest corner and the western section of the proposed thoroughfare would be residential, and the commercial would be left on the eastern side, so that there'd be a buffer of the wall behind the residential, and then the landscaping, and then the thoroughfare.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners of this gentleman?
Yeah, on the conceptual from Jones and Carter, what's the thoroughfare coming up that the entrance is going to be off of? What is that called? I'm a little confused.
This,
Coming into Lake Olympia Parkway, what is that? Is that on the, is
This
that going to
one
be
right
the
here.
developer? Or is that,
Well, the developer would have to build out the section to his subdivision.
are
What
you
street is-
asking,
what
is it on
street
our
is that?
major thoroughfare
Yeah.
plan? It's not a city street.
That's what
It
I'm
may
wondering.
become a public street, but it's not a city,
the way it's drawn is, it looks to me like it's.
right. Yeah, no, it's not on our major thoroughfare.
It's
Yeah,
not
it would just act as a
thoroughfare,
buffer
but
to
it'll
the commercial, right?
Well, but it's, okay, so again, this is conceptual, but
Yeah.
they haven't drawn it in white, so I'm wondering who's dealing with that,
I got you.
right? So,
Okay. Anyone else with any other questions? Okay. Thank you, sir.
thanks.
This is a public hearing. If there is anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this project, you're welcome to step to the podium and state your name and your address, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Angela Stegman, and I live at 2603 Lead Point, which butts right in the back of where the new residential wants to put there. My question is, from the drawing, it looks as if they want the entryway, they're going to build a new street, which would really be close to the Fort Bend Tollway. And we've got another section off of Lake Olympia Parkway that they're developing right now. And I've already seen major traffic pick up already there. To me, I have a great concern as far as the traffic coming and going through the Fort Bend Tollway, and then this new section that wants to be built back there. Another concern I have is there's a drainage ditch that's right in back where I guess the green part is still there, where they won't develop. I think that's how that looks. And I've been in my home for 7 years, and the drainage just does fine, but now they just built the new section over there, and the drain is filling up a lot quicker. I have standing water from time to time in the backyard, when we do get heavy rains. So I've got a very big concern with having another section back there, and where is all the extra water going to go as well? And then needless to say, I like the empty space back there as well. It just seems a little tight for me to 42 houses back there, and there's one way in and out. It's just a big concern for me. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
I know. Well, he just challenged me to ask you.
Yes, ma'am.
How would you feel if it's commercial that goes there?
The commercial, I don't think would be as bad. I think, at least what I see on Highway 6, the commercial, it's not as if somebody's actually staying there, that their business closes at 9. It just seems to be quieter, more serene,
Maybe.
Maybe.
maybe, yeah.
Well, commercial would
Walmart.
be. No, I don't think it'll be a Walmart.
Have
We
another
already
one.
got one down the street.
Yeah,
They
we're
moved
good
it,
with that.
moved it before, 20 years ago.
All right. Thank you so much for your concerns, and I'm pretty sure that those would be addressed through drainage issues and traffic impact analysis.
Okay.
Thanks for
you.
coming, though. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the commission? Is there a motion that we close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? My motion carries. What say the commission?
I have a question for the developer. Sir, do you know what product D.R. Horton plans on building? Is it the Express Homes or is it the?
I don't remember the name of which one. It would be consistent with the other sections, but I don't remember the particular one. I didn't see it, and unfortunately, the person who's going to be here was ill, so I believe you received a package with pictures, but.
And that was the Express, and.
Oh, that was
It's the Express
That was
Homes.
the Express.
As far as I can tell, they look like all the others, but.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we've already closed it. I'm sorry. But I will encourage you, this gentleman right here, please visit with him as soon as this is over, please. Okay. Is there a motion of some sort?
Move that we go with the staff's recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
I think I tend to agree with staff that, you know, this is a major intersection and that basically that really drives it towards the commercial and the ability to utilize that intersection, I think. And I think that's what we've always planned. And I totally remember the other two areas on the other side, how we'd gone through, particularly the larger one, about when are they ever going to build it, and, you know, we're going to plat it and all that. So I, you know, the word sustainability is a buzzword, but I think in the interest of maintaining a true buffer and everything to the commercial and how we've got it planned is probably the best. That's my opinion.
Any other discussion?
I'm sure that when they start to build something there, we'll hear about
Sure.
it.
You will.
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8A, this is zoning text amendment, and this is a public hearing and consideration for amendments regarding water and wastewater treatment and disposal system regulations.
As the commission may recall, almost a year ago, when I think about it, we came to you with the concept of letting our newly created utilities department make decisions concerning whether or not septic tanks and private wells were appropriate on property within the city and not keep it the province of the Planning Commission. At that meeting, if I recall, there may have been some concern over that approach. And as we looked at it and let it simmer for a while, in discussions with our city engineer who's over our utilities department, what we want to do, and the map reflects what we want to do, and really what we tried to do several years ago, and we just missed the target because we didn't realize everything was the city service area if it was not within a MUD or a water control and improvement district. Surprise it was, and the Durham tract taught us that mistake. But what we want to do is isolate and call out the particular areas that currently have private wells or private wastewater treatment and disposal facilities, or common term septic tanks. And you will find those scattered across town from mostly clustered in the Sienna area, but Black Creek Village, Estates of Silver Ridge, and then up along Texas Parkway, Fieldcrest, and I left out Stillwell, which is right next to Fieldcrest. Manors of Silver Ridge, New Point Estates, down Highway 6, Oyster Creek Farms, Oakwick Forest Estates, Rustler Crossing on the north side of Highway 6. And again, I wonder how is it on the north side of a north-south highway, but it is. Silver Ridge Residential Subdivision, Waterbrook, Waterbrook West, West Point Estates. And we want to include that area that is east of the future extension of Knight Road and south and west of Oyster Creek and north of the Oyster Creek Country subdivision. We understand, as a prelude to the future, that there is a buyer for that tract of land who wants to treat it much like the Durham tract and develop it as a single-family residential home with obviously no public utilities in the area. They will rely upon private well and septic. So we would like to capture the requirement that these areas be controlled under Chapter 86 and in zones R and R1, which encompass all of these areas other than those that have PDs that allow them. That because private systems are currently in use, they can continue. They will continue. They can continue to develop the vacant properties with those. We do not intend for them to be able to subdivide, say, a 5-acre lot into 4 1-acre lots and try to bring in 4 wells and 4 septic tanks. We don't intend that.
You're not going to get that permitted through the state anyway.
That's
Okay.
probably right, but we don't intend for them to be subdividing the lots that exist within those subdivisions, and I use that term loosely because at least one of those that we contemplate as a subdivision isn't platted. It's meets and bounds, and it's not truly an approved subdivision. Matter of fact, there may be 2 of those that are in that description in that area. We will have provisions, just so you'll know, that down the road, if public lines get established within a certain distance, we're going to mandate that they tie on. Or if they want to develop and they're close enough to a line, they will have to tie on. But if somebody wants to develop a large tract of land into residential and they want to avoid the creation of, whether it's a MUD, joining a MUD, or a municipal management district, to provide public utilities there, they will still have to come back to this commission in order to do that development. The purpose of this is to restrict it to those lots that primarily already exist and already have well and septic. So that's what we're going for. I think we finally got close to the target on this one. May not be a bullseye, but we're close.
You explained it better than that, thank you. In this, so where in this document, or where is the provision that at such time that public utilities are in the area or reasonably close, that we will coordinate or work with these landowners or lot owners or tract owners to connect and make, and where is that, and how is that going to be driven?
That's going to be in Chapter 86 of the Code of Ordinances.
Okay.
The utilities section, where it logically fits. That does not reasonably fit, in my view, within the zoning ordinance.
Right, is it already there?
It is not there yet. We intend to have a parallel provision that goes in as this is being considered by City Council. We want that amendment to the utilities code to go forward at the same time.
I like the idea that we've set the expectations, these are the areas we'll work with you, and in addition that in the future, because the problem is the septic systems and the wells, I mean, after so many years, you either have to replace them totally or maintain them as almost.
Having come from the other side of Houston,
Yeah.
if you want to put a well in the ground, you're going to pay dearly for that
Oh, yeah.
privilege to the subsidence district.
Sure.
While that may not be the case here today, I anticipate it will be in the future.
Fort Bend's getting.
And we also know that in this type of soil, septic systems really don't work well. And even if you have a spray field, I've heard complaints about different spray fields in the area. And you have an awful lot of land that really doesn't get used when you have a spray field because it's not really suitable to send the kids to play there.
So this this Chapter 86 thing is intended to fix the, just carte blanche for the utility commission
Yes,
to make that. So
Yes.
we've codified that now in that update.
that's
So
right.
That's what drives us going forward.
Much as I'm thrilled to have Valerie here, I wish Robert were here to help explain that also, since it will truly be his to carry.
And I can try. He briefed me a bit on this to explain that if I remember it correctly, it was if the public utility is available within 500 feet,
It-
somewhere
Okay,
around
we're going to
that
look to
area.
the expert who actually wrote it,
Do I
who has
have
a
my
better
feet
memory
correct?
than the rest of us.
It's 400 feet.
Okay,
400 feet, and if the cost of actually tying into the public system is less than $10,000.
Okay.
that's
That's-
roughly about the cost of what it would be to put in a septic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just wanted to make sure that was really addressing the question, because I remember we talked about it last year, and I didn't think we really had.
Basically, the
that
connection
issue with
fee is
it.
10,000 or less.
The intent is clear here. It's just, I think, boils down to some of the mechanics.
Yeah.
And I think
When we talked a couple of months ago, the idea was we were just gonna leave it all up to 86, and I was a little uncomfortable.
well, you weren't the only one.
You know,
I caught some grief for that
no, that's all right.
by the professionals that I work with.
Well, I didn't want all engineering to have it, all of them either, because that's not necessarily, you know,
That's what you said.
their thing is, because this, again, this helps set the expectation that goes with all the planning and all the maps and all that stuff we're trying to do, right?
It's an interesting mix, that as we look at development, we always want the development we prefer.
Sure.
We have to balance that with the developer's interest. We have to balance that with the public interest. And when you get to septic tanks, private wastewater disposal is significant public interest, whether it's a public system or a private system.
Well,
Do we have a public hearing?
It's a public
Make a
hearing.
motion?
Let me see if there's anyone. Yeah, well, there was, as this is a public hearing in regards to the water and wastewater treatment regulations, is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion? Thank you, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
Make a motion, we submit this to city council with a positive recommendation.
Second.
I just have one question. Do we need to include in the motion that we add the subdivision that was left off of the report, or will you just put it there?
We'll take care of that because it's not truly in what would be in zoning. It's going to be in Chapter 86 is where we list
Okay.
these out.
All right.
The
All-
zoning stuff's going to be really, really short.
Okay, good. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Failed.
I failed miserably.
Because of that one thing.
Yeah, that's mine. Yes, it is. Oh, this isn't mine. It was laying up there.
Yes, yes, I have one thing.